Okay, so we're live now. Hello, anybody that's watching this. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people watching this, but me and Jonathan have been reading Welcome to the Monkey House over the last month. And yeah, we don't have any questions from anyone, so we're just going to talk amongst ourselves about it in the hope that it's vaguely interesting for someone that had of it. No, I don't know.
If
I'm
it's
okay.
not interesting, it's my fault because I chose it.
Yeah, so why did you choose this book?
Well, I chose it for two reasons. One is Kurt Vonnegut's my favorite author, and I didn't want to try an entire book of his because I thought it'd be too difficult for the foreign students. And this was the short story of his that I could remember. So I chose it because it was short and because it was by him. But then,
Right.
having reread it, what I realized is that I could only remember one thing about the story. And the fact that it's called Welcome to the Monkey House, I could only remember the bit about the monkey house. That was the only bit of the
Which part?
story that
The monkey masturbating? Which bit
yeah,
of the monkey house?
and the politician is really horrified because he goes there with his children, and
Right.
that's why and he goes there with his 11 children, and then that was how he set up this ethical birth control pill because he wanted the monkeys to take it, and it says in the story that it was never intended for humans to take it. It was basically just to suppress the sexual urge in monkeys, so they wouldn't be masturbating in front of people in the zoo. And that was all. It was the only bit I could remember.
Oh,
But
that's what
then
you
there's
can
a lot
remember.
more.
All right. So when you go back to it, what do you think? Do you like it?
Well, I'll just explain a bit about the bit that I did. The reason I think I liked it is because I thought this idea that this guy. It was interesting that this guy was trying to suppress the fact that humans are animals as well. That because he was thinking because he was like a politician guy and he was horrified that monkeys were behaving in an animal way, even though they're animals. And I think in lots of ways humans are still animals, but they get all these ideas and pretensions of being superior. And that was what the contradiction was for me, that he was looking at animals behaving like animals and being horrified and distancing himself from that. And
Yeah.
humans do behave like animals. Um, which just reminded me of a quote I read once, which said, "What? Or it might be a question. What's the difference between a human and a chimpanzee?" And the answer was, when a chimpanzee looks in the mirror, he knows he's looking at a monkey.
Right. Okay. Yeah,
And
I'm with
so
you.
the implication is that humans, because they are like supposedly top dog, not top dog, top monkey, they have all these ideas about that they put on through society and things, but actually, on one level, they are still animals.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose yeah. In just saying that we're animals doesn't mean we have that like monkeys. But I didn't really understand how the drug that was only meant to be developed for monkeys, how it then started to become for humans. There wasn't an exploration of that, or was there?
I think that's to do with the trying to stop the population because one of the themes in it is that the Earth is massively overpopulated. Because in the
Yeah,
story, there's 17 million people living on the Earth. So I think that the story was that the purpose of it was to try and stop population growth.
yeah, I got that. I just didn't, I can't remember how they actually moved because at the end of the story, he's saying basically that birth control is okay, but you don't need to completely replace your sexual urges with nothing. You know what I mean? I can't remember reading in the story any explanation of why it ended up that they chose to kind of make people feel numb and not have any sexual urge at all. But yeah, I guess
I think that was part of the satire, that it was saying that they kept calling it the ethical birth control, and they kept saying that the other thing, to let people take a pill to help to allow them to enjoy sex but not have reproduction, that will be unethical. And then got to bear in mind when it was written. It was written in 1968, which was around the time when the pill first came available.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I think it's kind of, the story kind of turns on that. It's like, because there is a bit in it where it says, well, the opposite, which would be to have a pill where people could still enjoy sex but not have kids, would be like society would totally collapse. So,
But that's what he does at the end, isn't it? Right at the end of the story, he gives the pill.
yeah, he does, yeah.
But what I didn't understand was at the end he leaves a bottle of pills, and then on the bottle the label says "Welcome to the Monkey House." But I really didn't understand what the link was. Obviously, I know that the Monkey House was where the monkey was seen masturbating, but yeah, I couldn't understand why I put it on the label of the thing.
I don't know. I don't know that either. I was a little bit confused by the ending.
Yeah. Okay, so you that's what you could remember of it and why you liked it. Did you still like it when you read it this time?
Yeah, I did, but I liked it for reasons, things in it, because, like I said, it was written in 1968. It said a lot of things about society that seem to be true today as well, and I thought that was quite interesting. Because I was actually born that year. I was born in 1968. And I thought it was interesting that things, because he did sort of write half and half. He did write science fiction and ordinary fiction, and it's quite science fiction-y, the story.
Yeah, really
Um,
fun. Yeah.
I liked the fact that it talked about things that are actually real issues now.
Yeah, and I suppose I never read science fiction, but that's what people always say why it's good now that you look at things in the future and or try and learn lessons by expanding from things. But yeah, I don't know. This one, I felt that sometimes there were a little bits of gaps. There was quite a lot of like 1984 Brave New World kind of things, wasn't there? Like the world government and the police and those kind of like negative aspects. But then other times it seemed to be that there hadn't been any advance at all in the book. Do you know what I mean? In society, because there was still like a random police officer doing everything with like I don't know, a gun. They're still using the metric system. Yeah, it didn't seem very high tech. It's something that's quite futuristic in other ways. I liked it, but I just like you were saying, because it reflects on society and stuff. But yeah, there's some big holes I thought in the plot.
Well, there are holes in it, but it's like it made me think. So, and it made me think about things that weren't necessarily in the story. Like, it made me think about present day stuff, because when he said about how it's often the people who are trying to stop the population doing things that are doing all sorts of things themselves. It made me think
Yeah,
about. It reminded me of like the present day with things like austerity, for example, where the government tells everybody that they're not allowed, they have to cut back and they're not allowed to spend money, and they have to, and then employment's not as secure as it used to be. But then the people who are telling you this are the kind of elite who went to Eton and have got and are never going to be short of money. You know, and it's sort of like that ruling elite of saying one thing that everybody has to obey, except we don't have to do that because we're above
yeah,
it.
that was kind of alluded to, wasn't it, by the Kennedys? This like made up, well, semi made up family that was still ruling over them. I guess I don't know actually. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were also numb from the waist down in this book. But there was another bit I didn't get. He said that at some point he said that like everyone who's really eager to rule and makes all the laws is also the people that are really disgusted by nature's sexuality and sex urges. I don't really see that anymore. Maybe in 1968 when it was a little bit more conservative, but now you think of people like Donald Trump. I don't know if they're particularly disgusted by sexuality anymore.
Oh,
You know
that
what I
bit.
mean?
Hmm.
You said you got confused. What did you get confused about?
Um, I just got confused a bit by the ending because I had to go reread it because I wasn't sure whether she was being offered like what to us would be the birth control pill, or whether she was being offered to go back to what she had before.
Yeah,
Oh, so I was a
I,
bit confused by that.
I was reading around it, and you got apparently got a lot of criticism for celebrating rape.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I thought that I read a bit about that, and clearly it's written of a in that time because it objectifies women quite a lot. These women who are staffing
yeah,
the suicide parlors, and I thought you wouldn't really get away with that now. So that part of it was very much like stuck in the past.
yeah, and then there's the whole thing of like deflowering someone, and they don't like sex at the beginning, but then they learn to like sex, so you're kind of doing them a favor. Yeah, I guess the plot holes that I didn't really understand was like one of them I thought was quite bad was just when he wanted Billy the poet, when he was disguised as this old man, to get the nurses to separate. So they're meant to be these really powerful nurses, but then all it took was one policeman to say, "Oh, do you want to come and find Billy the poet?" You know what I mean? And the other nurse went with the policeman just randomly. It seemed quite strange for them to leave their job that they're kind of like systematically controlled to do all the time, and then suddenly be like, "Oh yeah, I'll take a ride with you, even though I've got no sexual urges at all. I'll just go follow a policeman completely stranded." And the other one I didn't really get was just, yeah, like everything's really sexualized. Culture of like no sex. Like why are the nurses wings and they're like plump, round, 6 foot, blonde, all this stuff. I couldn't really understand it. What was he getting at
I
by
don't know
making
if
them
that was
really?
just, I don't know if that was to lure people into the suicide parlors.
Yeah, but if they don't want to have sex anymore, how would it lure you in? Do you know what I mean? If you have no sexual urge.
I don't know. I don't just I don't think having reread it, I don't think it's his best story, but just a bit of history about him. In the days when you could still, before television was really big, he used to write short stories and sell them to magazines to get money. So that was his kind of his part-time job. And then
Right.
he used money to finance his novels. So like I think the stuff I've read of that's his novels and his later work, it is still very confused. There's a lot of stuff going on and he does jump about. It's not at all like logical order. But I think having read his later stuff, I think his later stuff's a lot better. But it's interesting
Yeah.
to see because I think he was quite prodigious at churning out these short stories.
Because this one was published in Playboy, wasn't it? I read
Yeah, it
anyway.
was, yeah, which I didn't know till this afternoon.
And yeah, so maybe we can't be too harsh because he's just writing for money rather than pleasure. Maybe a little bit. But yeah, when I was reading it, I did think that weird character, Kilgore Trout in Slaughterhouse Five. You know the author.
Yeah,
I did think, oh, it sounds like one of his books, like Kilgore Trout's books. And then apparently he does. Kilgore Trout actually mentions it in Slaughterhouse Five. Something,
yeah,
something.
yeah, because he does put this Kilgore Trout appears in all of his books,
Oh,
and
does he?
a lot of the time when he digresses in his novels, it's when he starts talking about a short story by Kilgore Trout, and then he'll bring it in the story, and it's so he does this Kilgore Trout. I can't remember where he gets the. That might have something to do with. going back to last time, Ernest Hemingway was definitely how the name Kilgore Trout came about.
Yeah, do you know, there was another link back to Hemingway as well. There was the boat where the rape happened. That was called what was it? It was the name of the fish that Hemingway was always trying to catch.
Marlin or something.
Was it the marlin? Yeah. I thought that was really strange, really weird to link it in.
Yeah.
Look, I read it all and I quite liked the book, the short story, well, more or less. I thought some of it was a bit obvious. But then I started to think, okay, so what do certain things mean in the book? Like going back over it. And I just couldn't understand what, like, for example, why did he take them to the museum and then to the boat? You know what I mean? Like, it just didn't seem to make any coherent sense apart from just to fill up time. Unless I'm missing something that there's like a real obvious like meaning behind it. Do you know what I mean? You take them to the museum first, and then down to the boat called the Marlin.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Right. Well, anyway, I couldn't get it. But maybe he had to reach a word count for his book.
I did think it was interesting about overpopulation.
Yeah.
Are you getting an echo at that end?
No. Are you getting an echo?
Yeah, I can hear myself talking. But the fact that now, we have too many. The population, despite the fact that we have contraception, population has still expanded, hasn't it? It hasn't stopped population growth. Some of that is because it's in countries where they don't use contraception. But I thought it was interesting that, like in Britain, we've got an aging population, and it's like that's affecting that's stressing society because you've got all these old people who are, because healthcare is now better, they're not dying off. Mm-hmm. So there's like more older people to be sustained by the state. And I thought that was interesting that this was in something from the 68 where that wouldn't be such a big problem, but now it is.
Yeah, do they not most people not see that coming as a problem though?
Do they not what?
I suppose back then I suppose the population was really young. Like the major part of the population was quite young, wasn't it? So yeah. Yeah, I like the themes, I just thought yeah, when I realised that it was written for a magazine, I thought, okay, that kind of makes sense. You know, it seems like a short story that maybe he didn't spend a lot of time over. But yeah, maybe I'm just being mean. Anyway,
there's one more thing. Let me just see. Oh yeah, there was a mention of the fact that a lot of jobs had been taken over by machines.
Yeah.
That most people had nothing to do, and that they just spent all their time sitting in front of the TV. And I thought that reminded me a bit of, considering, like I said, it's written in 1968. Now that's still a debate now, isn't it? That a lot of jobs are going to be replaced by machines.
Yeah, they talk about
that people just sit in front of the TV all the time and don't do anything.
Yeah, I suppose it was like listening to government propaganda on TV. Yeah, it seemed like a Paul Moss 1984, really, no?
Yeah, what's the difference between just sitting in front of the TV watching government propaganda and sitting in front of the TV watching The X Factor or Strictly or... I mean, now you can sit in front of the TV watching people sitting in front of the TV and watch Gogglebox. And it's just people watching TV.
Yeah, but that's what we've always done, isn't it? Like, if you go back to our original conversation about us not being any different from animals watch animals, don't they? So we're just animals watching animals.
But so we don't need to go to the zoo because we just can watch the animals on TV now.
Yeah, maybe that's well, I'm pretty anti zoos in general, so yeah, I would say, yeah, go watch it on TV instead. I never used to watch nature programs, but I've just started watching Blue Planet. You've seen it, that really famous Attenborough.
Oh yeah, I've seen it before. Is that the one that's in the sea?
Yeah, no, oh, sorry, not Blue Planet.
Planet Earth.
Planet Earth. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah. I've never seen it before. Have you watched it?
The new series.
No, the old one. I know there's a new one as well.
I have seen it, but I don't. I fall asleep in nature programs, so I can't watch them for very long.
Yeah, I don't know why I never watched them. I've been on this hippie commune, like away from everything. They do have Netflix here, so I started watching it. I was amazed, man. It was quality. Like strange stuff that people are doing. But yeah, okay. Is there anything else that you had to bring into this conversation on the book? I'm kind of out of things.
No, I haven't got anything else.
Okay. Well, we'll leave it there.
All right. I'm not sure that I'm not sure we sold it to anyone. I'm not sure anyone would want to read it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would read it again. No, I'd quite. Go on.
I was just going to say, I would suggest reading some of his other stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I read, as you know, I read Slaughterhouse-Five, whatever, a couple of months ago. So I was contemplating buying the collection of short stories. But yeah, maybe this one wasn't the strongest
I think
one out.
sometimes he talks about a short story within one of his novels, and the whole description of the short story is like a page of description, and that in a way they work better as that kind of aside inside a novel than I think they work on their own.
Yeah, maybe. I often think that, like that. I quite like reading a book of short stories because then you kind of get the little interesting parts that you can stop and start. Then you get like a full theme of the person's writing. Quite like that with Bukowski, his books of short stories. But yeah, I don't know.